Hi guys, welcome back to 122. Thanks for joining the channel again. So today's story is following an interview that took place with a BBC reporter with a member of a general from the United States African Command, abbreviated AFCROM. So I'll share this video with you. It's a very interesting video, and the interviewer was essentially asking the general about, the perspective of Americans being in Africa, having their military bases in Africa, and recently, as we all already know, that Western military forces have been asked to vacate from certain African countries. Some of those African countries that have asked those militaries to leave were in the Sahel, like Niger and Burkina Faso, for example.
Chad has demanded a halt for the U.S. operations in that country, and the military government in Niger has also, pulled out of a military cooperation agreement with the U.S. In these instances, the U.S. is moving out, and Russia is moving in. Is the U.S. being shut out?
So the reason why this is quite interesting is because countries like Niger and Chad had asked the United States military forces to vacate from their own borders, rightly so. And so the interviews, the general being interviewed was essentially just talking about how, despite their military forces being asked to vacate, they're still continuing to engage with those governments to foster better relations and to try and obviously influence. So that's it. That's the key takeaway here, is that American forces in Africa, reasons why they're there is to have greater influence over the region.
Chris, I would just say this. Let me cover Chad. That's repositioning. That's temporary repositioning at the request of Chad, with their elections coming up. But I've talked to a number of the leadership there, and they are still inviting us in for continued relations, because we've enjoyed a lot of success in helping Chad fight terrorism. But also, Chad has been big as well within the construct of the multinational joint task force in the Lake Chad region, and working with other countries on their borders to achieve those good results in being able to fight violent extremist organizations in that region. Niger, things, our talks are still ongoing. Whether we reset or reposition will just really be based on the threat, but also, as every country we engage with, is on a request of that country. So we look forward and we look at the region as a whole across West Africa, where the threat is and what countries are asking us to partner with them to be able to defeat violent extremist organizations.
Do you feel that the U.S. is, in some instances like the Niger and Chad, being shut out for Russia?
Well, I will tell you that all these countries have choices. And they assess themselves, they assess the threat, and we, in our position, continue to give our value proposition.
This really got me thinking and got me really intrigued as to what is it that they're gaining from having the bases there. Why they're there? Why do they have multiple bases all over the world, apart from their own countries and apart from particular fronts where they are engaged in physical combat with, for example, extremists and terrorists, etc. So why are they around the world, and why do they continue to have their footprints all over Africa? This doesn't just involve just America alone. This involved countries like France, for example, who also had a pretty big footprint in Western African countries. So why are all these international military forces placing bases all over Africa? And obviously, all of this ties into influence. All these people want competitive advantages for their own political needs. For example, one of the key things, one of the reasons why you'd have a military base in someone else's country is to obviously foster goodwill with those people. You go in, you do something, I guess, positive. For example, for humanitarian reasons, is when there's like food crisis or things like flooding and natural disasters occur, you come in and you help facilitate and help those people rebuild or simply clean up, right? And what that seems to do is to give them the goodwill to be able to like influence or manipulate into fostering things that will benefit and give them a competitive advantage to being able to like sell you products which then benefits the companies that operate in their own countries. And how they benefit is that they've now laid the road for them to come and do business in your own country. So that's a key takeaway, really, is that all of this, yes, might be under the guises of they're there to like fight and combat terrorism, but ultimately it's all about influence and power. And I guess some of the other key things they're obviously there to do is to essentially intelligence gathering, which is essentially just spying, just spy on you people. And obviously the more information they have about certain parties, the more they're able to manipulate for their own means. One of the other big key thing, well, I've already touched on it, is essentially accessing the natural resources that are there within that particular country they're there for. For example, like as we all know, like Africa holds vast natural resources like oil, minerals, and other rare earth elements that are now quite critical and important within this whole decarbonization drive that everyone is under to push towards climate-friendly, environmentally friendly alternatives, using things like solar panels and going fully electric. Where do we get a lot of these rare earth elements that are used in things like batteries, cell phones, etc.? A lot of this stuff comes from Africa. And there's a quick diagram I'd like to share. Places around Africa where all these international militaries have footprints within Africa. So as you can see from this diagram, the United States has a big footprint in the DRC. There's a footprint in Botswana. And what does Botswana have? As we all know, Botswana has lots of diamonds. What does the DRC have? Lots of lithium, lots of cobalt, copper, you name it. So this really does paint a picture of like, why do you send your military to someone else's doorstep? For power and influence. This is a sad reality that I guess most African countries will be facing. The reason why I believe it's sad because obviously we are co-opted into doing things a certain way, doing things a way that would benefit someone else over primarily focusing on what will work for our people first. So this is the sad reality about it. Like, why do we constantly need to have other people's military organizations based in Africa? Are we not able to do things ourselves? There's about 1 point something billion of us in Africa. You telling me that there's 1 point something billion people that we still can't do anything without someone else from another country coming in to do it for us? Please share your thoughts, tell me what you think. Let's get talking. Please do subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.
There's been little progress in fighting back these Islamist groups, especially in the Sahel area. And the sentiments and feelings amongst many of the people is that, this relationship is not beneficial to them. So why would they continue in a relationship that's obviously not bringing any benefit, especially for West African governments?
Oh, well, Chris, just let me take that piece. Governance. Governance. We have a Global Fragility Act. And also, I have an approach within U.S. AFRICOM. First and foremost, it will be African-led and U.S.-enabled. That's what I'm responsible to do. So when we look at the enduring solution for counterterrorism, it's more than a military or security structure. That's what I say, that's what AFRICOM says, but most of all, and most importantly, that's what our African countries, our African partners are saying. As I go from country to country across coastal West Africa, they say, yeah, it takes a whole of government solution set. It's just not the military structure. We need to close the divide between civilian sector and military structure and come together to be able to fight terrorism as a whole. Stop the recruitment of military-age males in the regions of consequence. They have the solutions. We're enabled. We listen, and we build capacity together to address that driver of instability.